not efficient enough. And the lack of efficiency is causing increased test time. That means from a recent analysis, add 10% of additional death risk, incremental death risk for patients, any 4 week of delay. It is a sum of factor, including delay in the intervention and also psychological behaviors and patient distress, anxiety, and so on. But also from the healthcare system point of view, regardless if it is the public owned or private owned, there is a wasted amount of money. Only in the US that are, let's say, only 300 million people. It is 20 billion per year. So, and this increased cost, those big costs for carrying on those crucial tests are affecting and creating budget issues for institutions and patients, and restrict basically the potential usage only for developed economies. OaCP, and later on I will tell you more, basically provide labs with reagents, so chemical reagents, that make in situ hybridization tests. In situ hybridization is one of the technology that we implemented, and it is used as a gold standard in cancer diagnosis, more efficient. That means that laboratories, thanks to our solution, can make tests more accessible by reducing 50% the test cost, make the test 97% faster, that means 2 hours test time, and with the better quality. The technology, which is the core of the innovation, is patented. The patent is granted in several areas, including India, where it is still pending, to be honest, but we received the first, let's say, feedback from the Indian patent office just a couple of days ago. Is a technology that is approved in Europe for diagnostic usage. And just to jump quickly regarding your question about doing business in Europe, when we are speaking about IVDs, so diagnostics or medical devices, we are, let's say, lucky enough to have a common regulation that is valid all around the European countries and some European associated countries. So once the product is approved, it is approved and can be sold, in the European Union, with registration in the single state. So product is approved, you need to register it in Italy, in France, in Germany, and so on. The new regulation is pretty tough, but luckily we are compliant, and so we can continuously being on the market. Basically, why our technology make tests faster and less costly? Basically, by improving the efficiency of reactions between the patient DNA that is over tissue removed from patients after a biopsy or surgical operation, and biomarkers that are used by labs to detect genetic alteration. All of those reagents have been developed thanks to taking advantage of my experience. At the time, it was only 13 years in cancer diagnosis during my PhD. And they have been developed due to a need. So my boss came to my lab and say, Enrico, we need to do more tests faster, and we have more money to add to the budget. So we create a mixture of active components that act over DNA double helix denaturation, so the unfolding of double helix, the hybridization of biomarkers within the patient unfolded DNA, and one component that can stabilize the reaction environment. That means tests are more efficient. They can be, the reagents are compatible with different tissue samples, with different biomarkers. And at the end of the day, we can, by making everything more efficient, reduce the quantity of biomarkers and other reagents. The benefits, we can prove the benefits. We proved the benefits. We did a clinical validation, a retrospective study over 100 samples among different, let's say, cancer types like breast, lung, brain, oral cancers. And so we basically discovered that we work not only very good, but way better than our competitors. So we can reduce dramatically one of the steps, that means total test time is 2 hours. And mainly, we have a way better concordance versus standard method than competitors one. And also, our reagents, we designed them to be stable at room temperature. So I was wondering, in countries where cold chain logistic is not guaranteed, we can be in that country because they have high stability and easy usage, not toxicity, so completely safe. Again, I guess the innovation is something that may be the key driver for anyone, not only that is willing to or keen to work in a university environment, in a hospital environment, but mainly for someone that is willing to set up a business or start a company, or are going to working for private sector. Innovation means that you will be always open, an open-minded person, and take advantage from the signals that came from your nearby, and elaborate those signals and put in your daily activity. Everything, I guess, the future will need way faster and way affordable tests. So we thought and we think that we are in the right direction. Basically, the real daily impact is that by making those tests faster and more efficient, laboratories can reduce the test cost for patients, or if you are lucky enough to be a private laboratory owner, you can increase your profitability as a direct impact. By applying this innovation, laboratory can make 3 times the test per day without any additional investment. There are no switch costs, no new training, no integration. And mainly our products can be integrated in automation. From economical benefit, we did as well case study related to US company. In this case, in that study, we show them that also by decreasing the costs up to 20%, they can increase their margin up to 56.4% over the test. I'm showing you this not only because of, let's say, display our activities, but just to invite you to consider once you have to do business in Europe, in the US, but basically globally, but in Europe and the US, we and they are more sensitive on that, to come on always with data to them, also economical data. Despite you have a great product with great scientific traction and scientific outcomes for your patients, your customers, and so on, what is an underestimate but crucial driver for the adoption is that slide, let's say. So cost. You have to show and to prove in a very simple way that your innovation at the end of the day is cost effective and provide the return of the investment, let's say. As mentioned, there is a big journey behind this innovation. We started testing in 2013, so almost 10 years ago, more or less. And only in 27 signals that we perceived from outside. First of all, most of you mainly are in the scientific, have got a scientific background. And working in a laboratory or in a university, at least in Europe, or at least in Italy, where I'm based, is a completely different mindset than to be in business. Working in a laboratory, you have the control almost over all the variables that can affect your experiment and your activities. And once the experiment fails, you can always have a positive outcome by publishing that your hypothesis was not, let's say, supported by data. So you prove that the opposite of your hypothesis, but you can prove always something, let's say. In business, you have control basically over nothing, because especially in the healthcare sector where, you know, legislations changes, not only new from speaking regarding Europe, not only from European global level, but for example, in Italy, we have a healthcare system that it is regional based. So the state makes some general regulation, then any region can have its own additional or different regulation, and any region have not only a single buying center, let's say, but any hospital or group of hospital has its own economic center for purchases of goods. In Germany, it is different. In Ireland, it is different. In France, and so on. So it is pretty complicated. So it's something that you have to be aware about if you would like to be in the healthcare sector in Europe. And also, as you see, we did in 2017 first sales in Italy and Japan, and continue additional sales in Italy and Japan. In Italy more and Japan, because Japan, we find it is a more, let's say, bigger market related to the interest and the open mind to innovative products. This year, we got the, let's say, approval with the new regulation, and we started the partnership with Roche Diagnostics. As mentioned, we completed the oncological related product. So our goal is always to transform cancer diagnosis by making it faster and more cost effective. COVID, as Pravin mentioned, forced us to speed up basically the infectious diseases market with the COVID kit. Later I will speak a little bit about it. But let's say it also let people aware that fast test and test not out of the hospital, let's say, are possible. So for what I'm perceiving, there will be a huge demand of rapid testing also in hospital environment. And if you are in the visionary enough, let's say, to move from developing something that need a structured environment, so kind of hospitals, big labs, and so on, from something that can be used in pharmacies, at home, in small GP, let's say, rooms, it will be the business that will grow accordingly, again, to my perception, dramatically in the next few, maybe 3-5 years. Quickly, we validate the test. I will just put those pictures to show you how in situ hybridization appears. Maybe you know, maybe not, but in situ hybridization is a technology that that can be read by a microscope or through a microscope. So you have the blue that are cancer cell nuclei stained with the general stainers, and the red and green are the signal for the HER2 gene in that case, and the green is the centromeric probe, so the control probe. In our study, you see on the left side the standard, the same case with the standard method, on the right side with our reagents with commercial probes, and it look almost the same with the also better. And we did it validation for breast cancer, as mentioned, lung cancer, leukemias, and automation, both in with different probes, with HER2, ALK, and so on. So just to summarize our proprietary technology line for oncology mainly, and it is something that I suggest to you if you would like to be competitive on the market. So to try to be as much as compatible as possible, as let's say complete as possible in tackling customer needs that are not only customer needs but also patient needs, with a very simple solution that can basically, as mentioned, touch any single potential let's say situation that a laboratory, a surgical pathology laboratory, and anatomical pathology laboratory has regarding cancer testing. For infection, let's say, during pandemic, we find a situation that was terrible for us. So here in Italy, consider that during the first pandemic year, 98% of cancer removal, breast cancer removal interventions have been delayed, so postponed. So 98% of the people, the female with the cancer in the breast, receive a letter from the hospital and the sanitary system in which they are told that they will not be treated in 2020. Also, and it is a European situation, not only in Italy. Also, we here in Europe, no screening have been done, no colon cancer screening, no breast cancer screening, and so on. So we lost basically 2 years of interventions. That means that the oncological related market was totally depressed. So we, by maintaining the same philosophy, we developed a PCR kit for COVID, which was the global first kit at all able to detect COVID plus the main variants that in 2021 were the so-called alpha, beta, or UK and South African, as you prefer, and Brazilian, in 45 minutes PCR time, in 1 tube per patient, and that was full compatible, and it is full compatible with the most common PCR machines. And it is allowing us to add a business unit that can be in the future merged with cancer diagnostics. Right now, we are an international company. We have suppliers in China and Italy, partners in the US, and business development partner all around, let's say, China, US, Italy, and we hope to add India as well to this slide, Indian partner in these slides. And yeah, that is almost all. I know that it is pretty tough amount of information in a very short time, but just to exit from the sharing, so you can maybe see me right now, because we have some additional time. I would like to speak about a little bit doing business in Europe, accordingly to my experience. So my personal business career started within the Bologna University. That was the university that hosted my PhD, and Bologna is the city that I'm living also right now. And almost it was incidentally because of we did this invention, and the knowledge transfer office of the Bologna University asked me to prove the business value of the university by applying to a Bologna University program that has got the aim to shift the mindset from laboratory to business. We did application, we won that program, and so we got first, let's say, mindset shifting. As mentioned, it is completely different. It was a very tough activity for me to switch from laboratory to business, and gave us first positive feedbacks from third parties. You know, because once you do business, you speak at home to your parents, your family members, and so on. And say, oh, I have this great idea to do that product, to sell it all over the world. And mainly because they are, let's say, nice people, they would like to say, oh yeah, it is a good idea, good luck, let's do this. But sometimes it's better to have a reality that punch in the face than at the early stage, than to discover after that something is not fitting. Then we went to the US. We did another 20 days intensive program, mindset program. So in this gradual switch, and then we had a more intensive program at the Rebel Bio with where I met Dr. Pravin for 4 months, full immersion in business, and I discovered that other people that were not didn't had the possibility to do my gradual, let's say, shift, may have some trouble. Doing business in Europe, it depends, because after that, the southern part of the Europe is more conservative than the northern part. So from an innovation perspective, so in particular in Italy, everyone is speaking about getting innovation, sustaining innovation, fueling innovation. But at the end of the day, it is more a kind of, let's say, political claim than a real action. So for businesses, I suggest, if you would like to do something in Europe, to contact let's say, European country investment agency, like you have in the Italian Trade Agency for Italy, you have IDA Ireland, for Ireland, you have Invest Hong Kong. It is not in Europe, but it is Hong Kong, but you have Invest Hong Kong, if you are willing to do in Hong Kong. You have Belgium, Wallonia Investing Association, and so on. All of them are working free of charge for you to help you to, let's say, soft landing in Europe, to do some business there. But as mentioned, it is pretty tough. We have several different languages from Northern Europe to Southern Europe, several different dialects. So several different dialects, especially in Italy, we are pretty sensitive to dialects. So the dialects that people are speaking in the north are not able to sell products into the south, and the opposite. So if you would like, say, Bologna is in the north, if I have to sell something in Sicily that is in the deep south, I have to engage an agent or a distributor that is in Sicily, because they speak at least the same dialect. So that is. For the other part, you can find the different bureaucratic environments, because any country has its own bureaucracy, its own tax law, its own taxation. So if I can suggest you, if someone is willing to do business in Europe, I suggest to avoid Italy, to incorporate in Italy, despite it is very good for food, fashion, vacancy, weather, historical stuff, but we have a higher taxation maybe in Europe, huge bureaucracy, and so on. So in that case, Northern European countries are way better. And also this is why we are incorporated in Ireland. And yeah, basically so on. I will be happy to give you more time for question, also by message, or as you prefer.